Got a video by Stutterbox, what Monster got wrong about the Ed Gein story. I skipped the intro because, I watched the first couple minutes of it just to see if it would be a good video to react to. And it's kind of just him critiquing it, but I want to see what he think they got wrong, because obviously it's a lot that they had to put in, because this is supposed to be like his real life, so they took some creative liberties from what I understand. So I want to see him break that down. I'm not necessarily interested in his introduction or spoilers.
The first episode establishes Ed Gein, and not even 5 minutes in, he's already butt naked on screen, showing off his perfect ass cheeks. His body is groomed to perfection. This man's skin, and this is one of my issues with Ryan Murphy's adaptations of true stories, is that he always presents them as these glamorous beings, like absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And for what? Like, why do we want these killers to be so attractive and so appealing? Are we trying to mimic their appeal in real life? Because I don't remember Ed Gein being portrayed as particular.
Now I see what they did with the eye and the cut. Like, he had a clean cut here and there, but what I would have liked to see them do is, like, when he's having like his episodes, because he was diagnosed schizophrenic, like, them sometimes have him be a little unkempt and like keep it to himself, because you know it wasn't like he had many friends, so like who did he really have to keep up his appearance for? And like the rest of his house was destroyed, besides his mother's room allegedly. So I mean, that's what we know, or what they told us. But yeah, man, they could have let him grow out his beard at some points, or like have him clean up when somebody calls him out, like, Ed, like, you need to take care of yourself. Like, the girl, I think in one of the episodes, come over to his house because he want to wife her up or whatever, and he like, yeah, I need a woman's touch. So I feel like that was one of the chances where they could have showed him like really like not taking care of himself per se.
Charismatic or even attractive. He also has a perfect haircut the entire time. Like, every time he's on screen, he's just left the barbers. Okay? It's almost like this is a fantasy of what Ryan Murphy wanted him to look like. I keep saying Ryan. I should say Ian Brennan, really. He was the showrunner. Ian, let's talk. He lives with his mother in a Wisconsin farm, and she is an abusive, religious nut who paints all women as Jezebels. She forbids her son from ever going anywhere near a woman and repeatedly tells him that he's someone only a mother could love. This type of berating that breaks down his psyche and traumatizes him and feeds his obsession with his own mother, the only person in his life, apparently. The episode immediately takes some creative liberties when it comes to Ed's personal life, such as his brother, Henry. In real life, Henry was found asphyxiated near a fire, the official cause of his death, and they never performed an autopsy because there was no reason to suspect foul play. And by the time he was arrested, people theorized that maybe he could have killed his brother as well and planted his body. Well, that's the story that the series goes with. Ed bashes his brother's head in and then drags him and places him near the fire to cover up his death. So it shows that he is not that dumb after all. He's not that delusional that he is able to take out his brother and then plant his body and cover up a crime that to this day has never been attributed to him.
So that's the one where I'm like, okay, maybe maybe they could have played it out a couple ways, like how they did with the Menendez brother thing, which I don't know how they would have snuck that in, if they would have maybe took out a couple flashbacks and played it from a perspective of, okay, maybe his brother just like was a drunk or something, like his father, and he fell over. But then even then, you taking creative liberty. But I don't know. It's like maybe you could have just left the brother out. I mean, and had him in flashbacks like the father, because they don't really show the father die. They just show him getting kicked out by the mom. So yeah, that this was the only one where I'm like, it makes sense that they added that, because he doesn't cover up anything else. Like, when he do other things, like, he just go on about his business. Like, he don't waste time trying to clean up. Like, the reason that they got to him in the first place is because he left breadcrumbs. So I doubt that he would have just like just left his brother. And they made it seem like this is like his first kill. So I don't know. That one questionable.
In conjecturing and theories, and that's what Ryan went with. Ian, whoever. After his brother's passing, his mother had a stroke, which is also true. We then see that Ed becomes fascinated with this Nazi war criminal Ilse Koch, who was known for creating household items out of the skin of Jews. And they invented a comic book that exists in this series detailing her crimes, which was their way of signaling a major pivot in Ed Gein's life, the point where he started experimenting with human skin. Because his mother dies shortly after, and unable to accept her death, he digs up a body. But he doesn't dig up his mother because, in his words, he couldn't violate her. So instead, he dug up a random body and dressed that body as his mother, and then kept that body in his home to be a physical presence of his mother's psychological presence in his mind.
Yeah, that's her. That's mother.
Me, when I say Lady Gaga walk into a room.
I don't know how to describe it. That body is mother.
Episode 2. Ed Gein hallucinates runaway Jews from a concentration camp trying to break into his house. Okay.
I know what I've been doing.
I'm not a historian, it just feels a bit cheap. And this is when we introduce the parallel stories to paint Ed Gein's influence in the real world, starting with Alfred Hitchcock making Psycho. In case you didn't know, Ed Gein was the...
I just still I really didn't mind that one because obviously he was seeing things that weren't there per se, so I think that is consistent with his mental health. So I'm not mad about that one. It was a nice shot. It kept you interesting kept some sort of entertainment. I felt like they could have leaned more into the mental health stuff more than the inspirations that he held. And I'll talk about that later about what I think would have helped with the inspirations a little bit more because that was kind of shoehorned in.
Inspiration behind the movie Psycho, and they make some really bold, interesting choices, such as Anthony Perkins is in this as a character. They paint him as this almost nobody who suddenly got a big break by being cast in an Alfred Hitchcock movie, even though at the time he was already an Oscar-nominated actor.
That's kind of crazy.
But okay. Anthony Perkins was famously closeted, and he even attended conversion therapy at the time because people in Hollywood told him that he had to hide who he was in order to get work. But the way that they tie in his closeted homosexuality to this movie specifically, almost as if they're trying to paint a parallel between Anthony's homosexuality being this dark side of him, akin to Ed Gein's dark side of digging up bodies and using their skin for household items. Do you hear that? Do you hear how insane that is? Do you... It just felt like a cheap way of connecting real-life elements with this story to make it, again, more cinematic, to show the consequences of the influence of Ed Gein. The series also establishes Ed Gein as having a sexual dysfunction he couldn't express, the cause of his crimes. And I will touch on this later on. Was he a cross-dresser? Was he not? Was he trans? Was he not? Spoiler alert, it was heavily fictionalized. Coming from someone that gave us pose, nonetheless. And the episode goes above and beyond to really establish a connection between Psycho and this story, to the point where they reenact the shower scene of Psycho, except they're using Charlie Hunnam dressed as Ed Gein, dressed as his mother, killing Adeline Watkins in the shower, which happens in the movie, not in real life. And it just feels self-aggrandizing. It feels...
That's one of the ones where if anybody felt safe around him, it was how they put Adeline in there, which was he cared for her, so he wouldn't do that to her. He wanted her to. So that's where it was it was getting a little jumbled. It was getting a little jumbled in there for me, at least, because I was like, why did they depict him this way with these people to do that? They could have just showed the actual movie scene. Because I feel like it would have been nice to see and I don't know if anybody other did that. But it would have been nice to just see the scene where, recreate the Alfred Hitchcock scene with the actual actors that they used, not Charlie Hunnam and the girl who played Adeline. They could have just used the actual actors that they used in the movie, like they did for everything else.
Like Ryan wanted to reenact this scene once again. He's already done it in Scream Queen Season 1 with the daughter of the actress from Psycho. We see a lot more of the knife actually going into the body. It cheapens the original scene because the original scene was known not for its graphic content, but for how not graphic it managed to be, right? You feel like it's a lot more graphic than it is because of the angles and the shots and everything. It's a scene that's been studied in cinema. And instead, Ryan Murphy gives it to us, but with a lot more explicit violence. Okay. He really said, Alfred, let me fix your work for you. And then this Psycho parallel story continues into episode 3. My God, aren't we tired? With Anthony Perkins dealing with the fallout of having such an iconic character in his repertoire, then now people won't hire him because all they see is Norman. Norman is weird because Ed Gein is weird. I keep calling him Ed Gein or Ed Gein, Ed Gein. And then we have Anthony Perkins on the phone to his agent, literally being like, ugh, thanks, Ed Gein, for ruining my career. And I'm like, yeah, this whole story, all of the violence surrounding this case, and what we need to feel sorry for is the Hollywood actor who can't get work because he played an iconic killer on screen. And then he does something even worse, like he deepens the parallels between Anthony Perkins and Norman Bates, like somehow he's becoming this deviant character, because why is Anthony Perkins watching Psycho while getting a blowjob from some guy? Even if this was the real story, why are we going so deep into it? But why are we also creating this fictional scenario just to compare Anthony Perkins to Norman Bates? I don't know.
I don't know. I think he just wanted to put a sex scene in there, to be honest. I think he just wanted to explore the fact that he was sneaking around in the closet. I think that's all that was, bro. Like, it's all it was. And if, yeah, I don't know. He ain't here to defend himself.
What is asked of the audience at this point? I don't know. And then there's a scene where he has sex with a woman to try and, be straight. And he has her coddle him like a mommy would, almost to say Anthony Perkins is so obsessed with this image of Norman Bates and his deviancy that the only way for him to get it up for a woman is to pretend it's his mom from the movie where he played a psycho killer. Wow. Just wow. And the conclusion about this whole Psycho storyline is that Alfred Hitchcock unleashed something evil into the world. His movie Psycho has basically changed audiences and led them to want more violence and more gore on their screen, so he's unable to do other projects now. He's unable to be conceptual and smart because people just want to see stabby stab. This is also the episode with Addison Rae, and I was genuinely impressed. Like, this is what I mean. He gets good performances out of anyone. Addison Rae was okay. It was good. What wasn't good is the fact
I don't lie. I thought it was like an Addison Rae lookalike because of, like I ain't seen, she was popping on TikTok in COVID, but I was like, that looked like somebody I know, but I don't want to jump out the window and assume that it's somebody I know. But yeah, she did a good job, bro. Like, I like, again, like I don't think he's wrong by saying these actors gave out good performances. Like Charlie Hunnam, they say what you want about the voice, but it was creepy enough to seem like he was really didn't know what he was doing, but creepy enough to say that, like, yeah, he is disturbed and he will hurt you. Like, kind of gentle giant voice, but still, like, we as the audience know that he is anything but.
that she plays Evelyn Hartley, a 14-year-old babysitter who at the time disappeared. She was never found, and Ed was never charged in her case, but that didn't stop Monster from fictionalizing her murder at the hands of Ed Gein. He kidnaps her because she stole his job as a babysitter, and then I just wonder, why did they hire a 25-year-old Addison Rae to play a 14-year-old girl strapped to this chair in underwear being tormented by Ed when none of it ever happened? Like, what was the idea here? The crime was never proven. The circumstances seem to paint her as a more mature girl, and all the sexual connotations surrounding it. It just...
Well, we needed to see Addison Rae on the big screen. We got to see Addison Rae, get murked. So I think it was just an opportunity again, like them piecing together what they thought Ed was doing, and what I seen on my TikTok feed was he actually was babysitting kids. Like, that was part of, like, the reason why he went under the scope so long. Like, he was doing odd jobs like babysitting. So, like, they made it seem like he only had this babysitting job because she was out, and then when she came back he lost it, when in real life he really was doing babysitting work. And like, which is crazy to think that this dude who was digging up dead bodies was also looking over your kids and you trusting him. Crazy parallel. So I think there was just an opportunity for them to show, like, a kill. But the thing that I didn't like about it is how they directly attributed that to the inspiration behind Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When I was like, because I thought that was real. I thought it was real, but now he telling me that it's fake. Now I'm like, all right, so he didn't actually bonk her with the joint.
What gives, man? What gives, Ian? Explain yourself. Episode 4, and it's a good time to talk about Adeline Watkins, the character that we've been seeing in every single episode. She was a real person, but it's pretty much impossible to know how involved she was with Ed Gein. At the time of his arrest, she put out a statement saying that they had been going on and off for 20 years and that they talked about murders all the time and that he would do nice things for her, to the point where she felt like she was taking advantage of him. And that seems to be the narrative that Monster went with. She is, in the entire series, she is his girlfriend, and she starts slowly exhibiting signs of a darkness inside of her, which is another hallmark of Ryan Murphy's work. Just a couple of crazy Looney Tunes who bond over their shared admiration for the macabre. Okay. But in real life, days after that initial statement, she put out another one revoking all of her previous comments and saying that their relationship had been blown out of proportion. In fact, they had only had one date early on, like 20 years ago, at a roller skating rink, and that was it. And then they were...
I think she was really hanging out with Dog, and then she got some heat and then retracted it, bro. It's not... This is like an age old... Like, maybe it's not in your best interest to say that you was involved with him because, you know, he's going to go to the loony bin, but you're going to serve some time for knowing what he was doing in that house. So just retract all that. I don't think that was the craziest thing to say, that she actually was involved with him, but like realize like the magnitude of what he was doing.
Just normal acquaintances that come from the same town. That was it. But most of the episode is dedicated to Bernice Worden, Ed Gein's last victim, and it seems like every woman in this town wanted to bonk him. And Bernice Worden kind of pissed me off because she was his last victim, right? And the series paints her as this older woman desperate for affection, predatorial even. She's a predator. She predates on Ed Gein, who's a simple-minded guy, and he goes along with it because he is attracted to her because she reminds him of his mother. And here we have a season of 8 episodes that seems to want to humanize Ed Gein, immortalize him, memorialize him, reform his image. Oh, another Nigel Farrar sighting, no way. Whereas his last victim just lives on in our screens now as a woman desperate for dick. She wanted to pound him, and she did. And that's it. And then she dies. And it's like, oh, she was a crazy woman who wanted to move in with him after one night of lovemaking, and he killed her for it because he was just pressured by her. She was.
Yeah, and it's not looking at this in retrospect, like, I don't know how much of that story was true, but it goes to like, how did we know that she liked Ed, or they even had the extent of that relationship? Like, how do we know he did anything with her? Besides just, you know, take her out.
Was the town's bike.
That hardware store lady, she's town bicycle. Everybody's had a ride.
Sorry, the ghost of his mother calling her the town's bike or the town's mattress is diabolical. So in episode 4, they have a date, they sleep together.
Everybody
and then
ride
his
her,
mom's
just like a
ghost
bus
convinces him that she is a Jezebel with STDs who gave him an STD, and now his reputation is ruined, so he goes back there and he shoots her. He then drags her body back to his barn, and then he shows the body to Adeline, and she's fascinated by it, and she's like, did she struggle? Ryan, Yin, you can't help yourselves but make a crazy couple out of 2 characters. Just a crazy bunch of loony binnies just going after people. There's also a point when she says a gun is $19, and it's not important to the story. It's just fascinating to think that back then, a whole gun was $19. Damn. This episode also starts linking his story to the making of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, showing hypotheticals of how the inspiration was born and how it was so edgy and ahead of its time. And they stylize the shit out of these sequences, like this orange filter all over it. Like, we get it, you know, it's a different decade and it's a different story. It's in, like, do we have to give it the RuPaul's Drag Race Season 1 filter, though? Do we have to? And they draw these parallels.
I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's cool when people play on the camera and make it seem like it's a different era. I personally like it, but because I don't want to see it I want to feel like I'm there. So if they was to do it in the same way that they shooting like Charlie's like era, like it's, I feel like somebody who's not brushed up on their like history could confuse the two. Like, okay, like why are they, or somebody who didn't know about Texas Chainsaw Massacre for whatever reason is like, okay, like why are we cutting to this random dude talking about making the movies? We were just in the 50s. Like, I feel like it's a nice way to clearly place them at a point in time and that we're talking about somebody else. Like the Alfred Hitchcock thing was obvious. Like that's an iconic movie if you into any type of cinema. But like, you know, as somebody who didn't necessarily watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I know about Leatherface, etc., I didn't know that the two was connected at all. So that was a nice parallel for me to know.
So much that it feels like they're trying to define Ed Gein by the inspirations rather than define the inspirations by Ed Gein, if you know what I mean. It's like they're drawing parallels that show that Ed Gein was the direct inspiration, and here's why. Because Leatherface did this whole thing where he swings the chainsaw over his head, so naturally we're going to show you Ed Gein doing the same, not because it happened, but because it's such a direct inspiration. It's like he did it. And then we're in the trailer of the guy who plays Leatherface, and the director is painting the mask, and we get this absolute out-of-pocket line. From the same person who gave us Pose, no less. Yeah. Episode 5.
And that one, I get it. Like, well, I hate to say the word, I get it, but I see where they was trying to go with the like he's acting crazy. He's acting crazy, and that's what the director probably gave him to go off of. Like, and the only thing I will say about that scene is like it was very annoying how like the screaming just carried on. Like it just dragged for so long. If you watch this episode, it's episode 5. It just dragged. The screaming, it was so annoying. And that's why I'm talking slow and I'm telling you how long it dragged. Like very annoying.
An awful lot of time on Adeline Watkins wanting to leave town. Then she leaves town, realizes the world is very harsh for women who don't have anyone or any money, then comes back to town, and it's just a lot. Why are we seeing this? We don't even know if any of it happened. It's another detour. But before she...
That's what kills me, and I think that was just like a filler arc of hers. Like, I don't think we needed to necessarily... Like, we knew. I saw from the beginning... Like when he initially showed her the body, like, and she's poorly holding the camera and just kind of just snaps a picture as if she's trying to sneak it, even though Ed can clearly see her taking the picture and he took her to the body, her like holding the camera, like, and going like this. You could kind of see where it was going. Like she don't really know what she's doing, and she kind of over her head. Like, if you just gave somebody a camera and was like, okay, I want you to do a photo shoot, it would look shitty. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Leaves town, she convinces Ed to satiate his sexual desires with the corpses he digs up. Now, in real life, he was asked if he ever had any sexual relations with the corpses, and he said no, because they smelled, right? So he never did it. He was not a necrophiliac. But don't let that stop the series from making him a necrophiliac. Because he starts doing it with the bodies to the point where when she comes back and he has the opportunity to do it with her, he tells her that she's too warm. So she goes into an ice bath to cool off.
And I feel like that was just like shock and awe. Because I really thought that's what he was doing. And then it comes, and now he telling me that that's not what actually happened. Because I was like, are you serious? I had to skip that part. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't need to see that. I didn't need the kills, but I did not need to see him on top of you know what I'm saying. With that being said, y'all couldn't have just let him like have a normal scene. Like y'all could have showed the scene with him and Adeline, but no. Because I mean, y'all shown normal scenes of people having relations, but we got to dump Adeline in an ice bath because we just had to show him. We wasted all that time showing him pump a dead body, even though it's not confirmed that he did that with a dead body. So once again, like, why then?
Okay. Ed Gein's story was already disturbing enough without us having to add fluff to it, right? Without us having to make up these fictional things that probably didn't happen or absolutely did not happen because he didn't have relations with corpses. He passed polygraph tests. Again, his crimes were not sexual in nature. It was all the obsession he had with his mother, but we'll get there. Episode 6 is probably the most accurate of them all. Bernice's son reports her missing, and that's when they start investigating, find out that Ed Gein was the last one to see her. They search his house and find all of these household items that he had been making out of the bodies he dug up.
And that's what I wanted to get to. Like, so you see how they showed this gift box, like where the first kill don't make sense.
When they start investigating,
Like the first kill right here, or not the first kill, the last kill. Shows the box, breadcrumbs, glass is there, leaves DNA all over the place, because he's just so not here with us, like in his delusions. So why wouldn't we try to cover? Why wouldn't he try to cover this up the same way he tried to cover up his brother? Are you going to excuse that and say he was so scared of his mom that he had to cover it up? Because that's the only person he really feared. He didn't fear the cops or anybody else. So like he just went along with it. But like I find it hard to believe that he left this and he left that, because they made it seem like he was so infatuated with underwear. Like even when they was arguing, I thought this was funny, kind of. when he was calling her out and saying that she had STDs and all this other stuff, like he was still like holding the box of her undergarments. Like he was gonna leave with him still after he just called her like a hoe in so many words, and his mom called her the Tom Bicycle. I'm surprised he didn't repeat that line, but yeah, called her everything but a child of God, and then tried to go off with the thing. And she like, give me my drawers back, dude. She didn't say drawers, but you get what I mean.
find out that Ed Gein was the last one to see her. They search his house and find all of these household items that he had been making out of the bodies he dug up. Because at that point, he was digging up bodies, he was removing their skin, and he was treating the skin to make household items like chairs, like lampshades, like crazy stuff. He's then arrested, and he says that he doesn't remember committing any of these crimes, that all he did was dig up graves. So he asks for a polygraph test, and then he passes it. Passes the polygraph test, denying association with all of these other crimes that were happening at the time. All of these disappearances that people tried to pin on Ed, he went on a polygraph and said, nope, I didn't do it, and it showed that he didn't. And this could mean one of two things. Either he committed them, but he's so mentally ill that he himself has no recollection of them, which means he is mentally insane and unfit to stand trial, which is what happened at the time. Or he genuinely didn't commit them and he was innocent of these crimes. That said, he was guilty of 2 crimes specifically, namely the murder of Bernice Warden and Mary Hogan, a tavern owner, a death that we also see in episode 2 or 3. But other than that,
he didn't that's say murders plus the grave digging, but he didn't clean up that one either, which makes the brother one, again, don't seem like he did that one for real, even though it's, he is he did take some other people out, but again, didn't clean that up. Just took her straight out, dragged her right out, didn't clean up a dang thing.
it's all speculation. It's all been disproven by polygraph tests and lack of evidence. And again, don't let that stop this series from making connections anyway, because it's more cinematic and entertaining that way. Episode 7. Ed Gein is in a mental asylum. He still loves lingerie. He dresses up in lingerie and dances around in his room. Once again, never proven, probably didn't happen. Okay. And then the show does this thing, which happened in his head, presumably. He sends ham radios to a few of his inspirations and he talks to them. So we get these split screen scenes of first Ed talking to Ilse Koch. She talks of how they are the next evolutionary step in humanity and how they did nothing wrong and people are just punishing them because they can't deal with the fact that this is human nature, and it's a bunch of other bullshit, but eventually Ilse offs herself in her prison cell. Then he has a conversation with Christine Jorgensen, this trans woman that he started admiring from afar. And just like clockwork, the series starts establishing another parallel, this time with Buffalo Bill, the killer in The Silence of the Lambs, which was also inspired by Ed Gein's crimes. Yep, you heard it's the third inspiration. Third and last. Goddamn. We've come a long way, because so far the series has been planting the seed of, is Ed trans or is he not? Is this obsession that he has with lingerie and women's bodies a deep desire to become a woman, or just a sexualization of the female body? And Christine ends up telling him that this sounds like he has an obsession with the female body, sexualization rather than wanting to be a woman, and that he's a gynophiliac. Every story that was inspired by Ed Gein has tried in some way, shape, or form establish some sort of gender dysphoria connection, right? That he wants to be a woman, that he dresses up in female lingerie, that he parades himself around his house to be a woman, and in fact, he even made a skin suit to emulate his mother. A skin suit, like Buffalo Bill. It's kind of crazy. But the thing is, of all the evidence, of all the psychologists and everyone that has interviewed him and analyzed this case, they have said his confessions show obsession, not attraction. Gein spoke about digging up middle-aged women because they reminded him of his mother. He denied any sexual arousal in the usual sense, and his actions appear to have been ritualistic, delusional, and compulsive, not erotically motivated. He also didn't just wear lingerie around the house to feel like a woman, he would wear human skin to feel like his mother. So, like, all of these illusions of him feeling like a trans person or feeling some sort of gender dysphoria, it's made up. It's been made up in all of these iterations. And the show goes so far as, in the end, again, criticizing all these people that changed his story or interpreted it the way they wanted to, and that his story was never accurately told. But then the series...
Yeah, it wasn't accurate. Based off what he just told us and what I've seen. Like this is the debunking of first I'm hearing about the lingerie thing, because that was like a major part in this, right? Was him prancing around in lingerie, which I was like, oh, it's probably accurate. You know, he in the hospital, he in the house. Like, I guess the house one was a little far fetched. Like, he probably could have told the doctor that he was in the house doing that, but reports show that he was in the skin suit outside, and it matches up with his obsession with his mother. But like, the fact that, yeah, they call out people twisting his story, and that the fact that he didn't want to write the book because enough people told it, and then they come out and then they add their own stuff in. Like, I get creative liberties because you got to make a show, but like, straight up making stuff up is crazy.
does exactly that. They also do the same wrong parallels. For what? Psychiatrists described his crimes as stemming from grave guilt, the loss of his mother, and a psychotic identification with her. Again, not sexual sadism or fetishism. And he was found legally insane, none of the psychiatric reports listing sexual motivation as primary. So I'm surprised that Ryan and Ian went with such a heavy focus on him wanting to be a woman or wanting to cross-dress. They should have instead deepened the link that he had with his mother. Maybe all these scenes where he cross-dresses and arouses himself could have been swapped by more accurate depictions of him wanting to be his mother and emulate his mother. God, if anything, this series felt like it had a ghostwriter named J.K. Rowling. He's diagnosed with schizophrenia, he's put on medication, and seemingly after that, he resumes life as a seemingly functional person. Episode 8, the Ryan Murphy Netflix shared universe. Clocking in at an impressive 1 hour and 5 minutes, the last episode is, buffoonery. It's the crossover that we never needed and no one ever asked for. Mindhunter. Ed Gein is now in his 70s and fucking hell, he looks great. Hydrated, skin moisturized, no sun damage of any kind. We then see another serial killer who's in prison, Richard Speck, once again trying to rope in as many characters from the outside world as possible into this story. Richard Speck then writes a letter to Ed Gein talking about someone who idolizes Richard Speck. That someone is Ted Bundy. So Ted Bundy was inspired by Richard Speck, who was inspired by Ed Gein, who, using that letter, helps the FBI catch Ted Bundy, Mindhunter style, which also didn't happen in real life. This was also a fictionalized version, I guess, of What If? What are we doing? do it.
That's not true. I thought he was really out here, like, you know what I'm saying? I picked up on the Mindhunter thing because that was, Mindhunter. I wish there was more seasons of that, bro. But I might rewatch it. But dang, so how much of that is not true? Did he help catch Ted Bundy or not? Like, golly, bro. This is why I needed to watch this video because it's just it was a lot going on. I mean, the last episode already seemed far fetched, like with. Let's just resume.
And this is when we get the conversation of the nurse telling him that he should write a book about his own story because with all of these movies being done inspired by his story, it seems like he's the only person who hasn't told his story yet. To which Ed says,
"Seems like others have told my story. Seem to know it better than me."
so you're telling us that the movies were not an accurate representation of his life. So why did we spend 8 episodes linking them so intimately? Why have we also invested so much time in portraying the same details that have been proven false? Why have we not just focused on what actually happened? Why have we not just focused on trying to give an accurate depiction of what happened? Just food for thought. He gets a visit by...
Not gonna lie. He got a point. He got a point there. Which I think this is my critique about how the series could have gone at the end. They could have shown the parallels in the last 2 episodes of what happened versus what actually happened. And when they took these creative liberties, because I'm just looking at it like you could have had a chance to debunk these things and not set the record straight because he still did horrible things, but like show the horrible things he did in conjunction with what the movie's made up, or show the inspirations behind it. Like and say, yeah, like it's a way to do it. Y'all the directors, y'all the actors, y'all shoehorn this stuff in. Y'all could have figured out a way to shoehorn it in at the end. I would have liked to see the compare and contrast instead of like, hey, this is where it came from and this is what he was doing as well. I could have said, oh, this is where it came from and this is what he was doing. Both horrible things, but this is what actually happened. He actually was just digging them up.
Adeline, who has aged not a single day in God knows how many years, because he's in his 70s. She's got to be at least in her 60s. This don't look like a 60-year-old woman. And we get a final montage.
I thought that was a hallucination by Ed because he was dying. I don't think she actually was there.
Of stylized dancey scenes like a last hurrah of hallucinations to send Ed off. There's hospital staff, serial killers, all basking in his influence. And in the end, he walks up to his mother who tells him he accomplished something.
But like in his final delusion, why would he, like I get the staff is there with him, but he's never actually met any of these killers. So like why would they be there with him? Like why would he in his last moments picture Richard Speck with his shirt off? Like why would he be picturing like Charles Manson and Ted Bundy and all these other people, all these other killers? Why would he be on their brain? Why wouldn't he just see his mother at the top of the stairs along with some staff in there? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but like why did the other killers need to be there? I doubt he would have actually cared about them. And again, this is where it comes to like, are you defending him because he still was like a terrible person that did sick things? But yeah, that portion, I don't think we needed to shed light. Like, welcome to the serial killer club here. Like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that portion of that scene.
Is immortalized the Gein name, the Gein name, Gein. And then in the end, a group of teenagers are in a cemetery yanking Ed Gein's tombstone out of its place, and one of the kids sees Anthony Perkins and Buffalo Bill and Leatherface, and they drive off, and it's just Ed Gein swinging the chainsaw around like Leatherface. The end. The real end is Ed Gein sat on a porch with his mother. She's knitting, and he's just basking in the daylight, happy as can be, drinking lemonade, and she says, "Only a mother could love you." And there you have it. Another work of exploitation that seems more interested in creating memorable imagery than actual storytelling. A self-aggrandizing ego exercise where the real losers are us, the viewers. Ryan Murphy should probably go back to fiction. Give us a new season of Scream Queens. And in some way, I feel like the series is positing the question, are we the real villains for giving these killers so much attention?
No, because it's right in our face, so we got to talk about it, right? I think history is important, but telling it accurate is even more important. So I don't know. I want to just give my thoughts about it because I just watched it. It was very gross, very grotesque. A lot of the stuff that I just learned about that wasn't necessarily true kind of is like, well, damn. Like, I thought some of it was. So now I'm questioning a lot of stuff about the series because, it seems like about 40% of it was just made up and whatever that the directors wanted to do. So I don't know. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts in the comments. And without further ado, I'm going to get us up out of here. Cool.